What's up, YouTube? So Stephen A. Smith accuses Sheryl Swoopes of engaging in a level of immaturity. And Sheryl Swoopes calls Stephen A. Smith a coward. Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Corey, and welcome to my channel, Let's Talk with Corey. If this is your first time tuning in, hit that subscribe button. But before we get started, wherever you are in the world today, I mean wherever you are in the world today, I really do hope you're having a great day. And guys, I report the news. Some call it fake news, but I call it the news. People, places, and things is what my channel is all about. So guys, this article comes from Awful Announcements. It says Stephen A. Smith accuses Sheryl Swoopes of engaging in a level of immaturity. All I'm going to say is it was pretty damn immature to come back at me like that, says Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith is going to continue to get content out of his disagreements with Sheryl Swoopes. The First Take host took aim at Swoopes, calling her insane for refusing to give credit to Caitlin Clark. In turn, the WNBA legend pushed back by calling Smith a coward on social media for how he responded to her comments on the Indiana Fever's guard. But Swoopes' public comments on Clark have been few and far between, as she recently went silent on a Dallas Wings broadcast when the former number 1 overall pick was mentioned. Swoopes wasn't included in the broadcast lineup for the Wings Fever matchup over the weekend, with Nancy Lieberman taking hold of that role instead. In fact, the latter went on the same podcast in which Smith responded to Swoopes, as the two now have their own feud surrounding Clark. There's been some haterade thrown in her direction, Smith said, with a not-so-subtle jab towards Swoopes, because there's no excuse to have resentment towards her. And see, we don't want to address the big elephant in the room, but we ain't gonna run from it today, because Sheryl Swoopes made news. Now, she made news last week when she sat up there and was applauding Indiana Fever players, but then forgot to mention Caitlin Clark. Let's cut to the clip where Stephen A. Smith addresses the elephant in the room.
36% on the road. Okay, we know what she did at the WNBA All-Star game. They averaged like 3.4 million viewers on ABC. That All-Star week. I mean, come on now. This is Caitlin Clark. This is the Caitlin Clark effect. And so it's time for everybody to stand down. It's time for everybody to admit, Stephen A., you were right. You were right, Stephen A. Caitlin Clark should have been on Team USA. Should have been on Team USA. And we also write about the fact that there's been some haterade being thrown in her direction. Okay? Because there's no excuse to have resentment towards her. And see, we don't want to address the big elephant in the room, but we ain't going to run from it today, because Sheryl Swoopes made news. Now, she made news last week when she sat up there and was applauding Indiana Fever players, but then forgot to mention Caitlin Clark. She jumped all in my ass because I sat up there and said, hey, how you going to ignore Caitlin Clark? You know what she brings to the table. How you just going to ignore her? That's not an accident. Sheryl Swoopes is a champion. A champion. Look at her tweet and what she put up about me. You talk about whomever and whatever you want to on your podcast, correct? So why can't I? Also, did you listen to the entire episode? Nope. I have a personal relationship with these players, and they deserve recognition as well. That ain't the point, Sheryl Swoopes. Yes, I did listen to your entire podcast. You didn't mention Caitlin Clark. So I was right, number one. Number two, your personal relationship, what that got to do with your coverage? Ain't nobody said don't mention them. Ain't nobody said don't applaud them. Nobody told you to ignore them. What we're saying is if you're going to give the Indiana Fever all the credit in the world, how you going to mention the Indiana Fever without Caitlin Clark's name even coming up? So then after that, Sheryl Swoopes engages in levels of immaturity. There's no way to slice it. I'm not going to insult this champion, this great basketball mind, this phenomenally accomplished Hall of Famer. I'm not going to insult her. All I'm going to say is it was pretty damn immature to come back at me like that. Called me an effing coward because I called you out for not doing your job. So you on a podcast, that means you don't have to do your job? I mean, the bottom line is this. She engaged in a level of immaturity. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, to just bite at me like that. Oh, why? Because what did I say? What did I say? You want to know what I said? Take a look at what I said last week about Sheryl Swoopes. Respectfully, Sheryl Swoopes, you have any idea how that makes you look? You have any idea how that serves to stain any kind of critique of Caitlin Clark, because that gives fodder to those who believe she's being hated on and ostracized to some degree? Do you realize that, Sheryl Swoopes, you're insane to do that? Let me tell you why you're insane to do that. Because Sheryl Swoopes, you're one of the greatest players ever in the history of basketball. That's why. See, you won a championship in college at Texas Tech. You won 3 Olympic gold medals. You won 4 WNBA championships. You know basketball. You know basketball better than me. You know basketball than any of the pundits. You know basketball better than most of the men that play basketball. There is no way in hell you just accidentally left Caitlin Clark's name out of that soliloquy that you dropped about the Indiana Fever. Stop it. You know that. Stop it. I mean, listen, the bottom line is this. There's a whole bunch of reasons that I'm quite sure Sheryl Swoopes could come up with.
Okay, guys, you heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say. One, he talked about what a great rookie Caitlin Clark turns out to be for Indiana Fever's team, along with other stars who are making a difference in the league. That before this season, it was a league that needed to be revived, that was on life support. But guess what? Caitlin Clark, insert Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and other key players that the WNBA has been getting, especially the Indiana Fever, as well as the Chicago team, and even the Aces. So, guys, what's your thoughts about what Stephen A. had to say about Caitlin Clark, and especially about Sheryl Swoopes, who he did say and give flowers and said, hey, look, she's a champion. She knows basketball. He was just wondering, why did he have to be insulted, and why she could not mention Caitlin Clark team as a whole. So, guys, what's your thoughts? You leave a comment. Hey, there's a feud, and it doesn't seem to be over with Stephen A. Smith and Sheryl Swoopes. But also, I'm going to bring up another video later where now all of a sudden Nancy Limmerman and Sheryl Swoopes, both WNBA legends in their right, are no longer speaking to one another. Longtime friends. But hey, guys, as always, thanks for the pull-up. Leave a comment. Hit that subscribe button. Until the next time, let's talk with Corey. Let's talk with Corey out.